When I arrived here this morning, I was given a picture. Debbie, choir members saw Debbie say to me, I got a picture I want to show you, and she had it on her BlackBerry. She snapped it this morning as she came into church. So I had her email it to me so I could show it to you. It's on this. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that?
Oh. Tire tracks in the snow.
Tire track, but look at them.
Look at them.
Oh, neat.
Figure it with your arm.
Those are carts.
But, you'll hear.
Okay.
I don't normally walk around the congregation, but I have to show you this. This is the imprint in the snow outside of this building as she arrived this morning. It looks like tire tracks. Do you see the rest? Pretty impressive, right? There is a God. And if you will have taken note lately, I have not been titling my sermons. I used to always say, if you could say it in 2 words, say it in 2 words, don't take all the rest of 15 minutes. But if you look in your bulletin, there's a title on this one. Yeah. And it says, to love others more than ourselves, or something to that effect. Do you think that sometimes there are things that guide us or happen capriciously to show what is the mark within our soul or within our being, what it is that shows us our true sense of worth or who we are? In the native culture against which I live, this kind of thing is considered a sign, a symbol of what is within. 2 hearts entwined in the snow on the pavement outside of this congregation. Your message this morning of what it means to give of your time in love, life, and service. Why a person would risk all those things you talked about in terms of illnesses and trips and diseases to do something against the backdrop of what we have as Scripture. I normally start with a prayer, and I figured this whole thing is a prayer. The Beatitudes turns the world upside down. They are the perfect mark, perfect symbol of our faith. Long before they were spoken by that young man on the Mount of Olives on a sermon, the most powerful sermon ever spoken, the most powerful message ever given, the Sermon on the Mount. It has transformed the human race in many cultures, and certainly through the Christian faith, through many nations, for 2,000 years. These words, these simple words. This is the heart and soul of the gospel of Jesus Christ. There's very few things you can say that are the heart and soul. Everything else gets people to embellish and add words to. But his message was pretty simple. He took a band of people who were no names, nobodies, a small congregation in a backward place in a distant time, which someday people will speak at this congregation the same way, and went out amongst the world, and by the simple acts of kindness, love, faith, and forgiveness, transformed the planet Earth. It was the most powerful thing that could ever happen, and it was never anything big. As a matter of fact, it was a bunch of words that absolutely inflamed the local authorities. Because who does these things? Who gives up their creature comforts and goes out into the world and preaches giving up your creature comforts? Who turns things on their ear in such a way that says the disenfranchised few are that important that they will become the core of the earth? Who says, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth? No, it was always the strong, the rich, the powerful, they take control. Who says these things? No, Doris Thomas says these things. She said them a few minutes ago when she said she's going to get something from those people. Not just to give, to bring. Sure, she's bringing a program of children's programs, and she's bringing building skills to a little village on the shores of the Amazon River. And she's bringing back here a transformed Doris Thomas, a transformed Cataraqui Church. She will transform the lives of every person she meets. Because that's what it means to love others more than we love ourselves. That's why Jesus said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, because they will be filled." Those of us that thirst and hunger for food, and with my weight, obviously not me, but you would think I do when you see me sit down to a dinner table. And that's the hunger that never goes away. Like, that's what we do, though. We gorge ourselves on all the good things of our society, but when we want to truly be filled and truly content, it's the righteousness that we seek that will fill us. It's the right relationships in our lives. It's the right way of being with God's people. Blessed are the peacemakers. You'd think we'd get that one, wouldn't you? Even in our generation, we are the heirs of 2 world wars, countless violent conflicts around this earth, terrorism, 9/11s, subway attacks, suicide bombers. You think we would get blessed are the peacemakers, and we still live in societies that praise violence, make war, fight over the stupidest things like land and wood and oil, because we think they're really important, more important than the people who live on the land, who work with the wood and oil. But when people like you, and if you want to see the true message of God at work in this world, seriously, how many people here really want to see the true message of God at work in this world? If you do, put your hand up. Here's the quick way to do it. Get up, go out the door, get in your cars or on your feet and go to your homes, walk into your bathrooms, and look in the mirror. Because that is the true message of God at work in this world. That's what transforms the human race. If you wait for some king to do it, some parliament, some multinational corporation, it isn't going to happen. In fact, if you wait for a denomination to do it, it's not going to happen. If you haven't figured that one out, ask yourself, why are there so many denominations? And why do we not get along with each other? And why do we spend so much time talking about which our church does versus what their church does, and our way of doing it over their way of doing it? And we can't even agree amongst the Christian church, let alone get along with the other faith races of this earth. No, it starts here. It starts when we pick up the pieces and understand that in our brokenness, in our hunger, in our thirst for justice and food, in our meekness, and all those things that are in the Beatitudes, all of those things, they are the principal formula for our life. Jesus went from teaching us that to doing one other thing that was vitally important to our faith. Massively important, more important than any of us can ever fully understand. He took those same people that he was listening to, and they sat down and they ate a meal. And why would that happen? Why would that be important? I learned a long time ago that when people are actually at peace and at one with one another, they can sit around a table and fully engage. That when you break bread with people and share it, and you actually share it, and you share the time and the place and the space, you become one. You become the principle of God's harmony on the earth. Now, we all know there's tables where people bicker, but if you remember, when they bickered at the table, they didn't stay there, they left. People don't stay in the room. They get up and they storm out. They throw food at one another, they yell at one another, they leave, but they don't stay at peace, they don't stay at the table. But at peace at the table. And Jesus said, you break this bread, you break it together. And you do it in remembrance of me, and you do it in a way that is compassionate, loving, just, kind, caring. And you end up with all the principles that are in the Beatitudes. A wise speaker in the U.S. about 15 years ago made the comment that if you look at any 12-step program in North America or the world, and those of us that have actually participated in 12-step programs can verify this, that when you get involved in a 12-step program, the principles that you go through end up being the same principles that were written in the Beatitudes. It's about grounding your life and finding the balance and the harmony and the understanding of the peace and the hope and the love that exists within them. You break bread. You trust yourself. You trust God to be the power that works within your life. And you look for the simple methods of reaching out and sharing and caring for yourself and for the world around you. And you're waiting for the global, multinational, international, denominational, corporate fix for the world. Get a big stack of magazines. You're going to be here for a long time. But you put your hands together with those who want to walk the walk and talk the faith and actually get out there and share the life, sit down at the table and break the bread, and you discover the power and the hope of what it means to love others more than we love ourselves. A few weeks ago I said about a writing called The Invitation of the Words I Wish I Had Written. These are the other words I wish I had written, the Beatitudes, and of course I couldn't have written them. Christ spoke them. And I'll be forever thankful to the Sunday school teacher who, when I was 9, insisted that I memorize them. Caused me to quit Sunday school, caused me to have great anxiety attacks, and caused me untold pain in the early parts of my life because I can't memorize things. I have attention deficit. It's kind of hard to focus and go back and recite it by rote. But she made me look at them enough times in that effort to try and please her that when I got over the anger of her and the words over the years of my life, I discovered the truth of them at the heart of it. And so I also learned that you begin forgiveness by forgiving those who force you to memorize the words. They are a pathway to living. They are a pathway to this table. They are a pathway to all of what we do in this world. It's the pathway Doris and Steve and all those that go on international missions take. It's the pathway of everybody here who's ever stepped up and helped out with somebody who's lesser than themselves, or reached out to help a neighbor or a friend, or to give a leg up to someone. It's a reminder to us all that God blesses every one of us with the measure of love, life, hope, and faith that we need to be fully alive in this day and to face the next. I welcome you to the table as we get there.